Yet you deny Muslim women agency and receive almost no support from them. Your support in Western countries has come from right-wing conservatives that benefit from you speaking when, as you have said, they would have been labelled racists. Why do you make life more difficult for Muslim women in Western countries by calling them slaves and submissive robots, and for women in Muslim countries by advocating military strikes on places like Iraq and Iran?
Let's go to this side of the panel, and Ayaan, we'll start with you. Obviously, it's directed to you.
Well, I do have Muslim women as my friends and as my supporters. I have started a foundation in the United States of America, and we welcome women, young women, young girls, women of middle age, and here's what they complain about. Here's what they come to us for. They're subjected to forced marriages. They're running away from a forced marriage, and their children are taken away from them. They have no custody. They are subjected to women who see their own children being forced into marriage. They're subjected to female genital mutilation. They're enslaved. They're forced to wear the veil when they don't want to wear the veil. This is what is happening to Muslim women. And when you said that at times you feel squeamish about, being a white man and in that culture, here's what I wish that white men and white women would not feel squeamish about. It is to protect the rights of the individuals within these communities and within these groups. If you have young girls who are subjected to forced marriage, it is not a marriage, it's an arranged rape, it's a forced rape, and I wish we were not squeamish about it. We were not squeamish about slavery, we were not squeamish about eradicating civil rights, apartheid, and I wish that that is one thing we would not be squeamish about.
Emma.
Get right back on and try.
We as Muslims, if we reflect on the morality, the religious morality and the civilizational morality that history has given us, we have failed, and that does not mean that we will not exist anymore or anything like that. That means we can learn. And that's why I love to read these Western thinkers, and I love to look at the West and say, hey, there are a few things that they've done better than we have, and we can learn from that without entirely relinquishing what we have. I don't believe that the world was built in 6 days, and I don't believe in Allah, and I don't believe in angels, and I don't want to impose that on anyone. But I think that as a civilization, as a culture, we can learn a lot from the West, and we can learn a lot from other cultures that have learned from the West without losing our identity. I don't feel that my identity is as easily threatened as many Muslims hold it to be. In your case, you take the assumption that the Quran is the word of God, so does Bin Laden. You are charming and handsome, and you attract a huge audience because you're eloquent. But then you're not the only one. There are more handsome, more charismatic Muslim men, such as Bin Laden. The only difference is, there is a big difference, because what Bin Laden does is he is consistent in what he says, and you're terribly inconsistent. Exactly. And I think that
can you prove this?
Well, if you say, for example, that you want to contextualize, you just said Islam and democracy and Islam and liberalism and so on are compatible. And I think if Allah in the Quran says, demands total submission, total obedience, on the one hand, and on the other hand you say it is compatible with values that say the individual can make his or her own choice, then at least in the language that in the semantic, in the language that we speak, we are talking about a lot of inconsistency. And for young Muslim men who are looking for some kind of direction, who are disappointed with the West or who are disappointed with their lives, I think that it's much easier to follow and believe what Bin Laden says, because what he says is written in the Quran, what he says is written in the Hadith, and what should be done is more consistent than what you do. That's my only accusation to you.
Jay wins. Flawless victory.
You said she said really messed up things about how to deal with immigrants. What, do you have any examples of that?
Not off the top of my head. But I just really, I don't know. I just feel like she's not. I know that I do think the left should respect ex-Muslims more, and I do think that the way that some people on the left try to make ex-Muslims as traitors is silly, but I don't think Ayaan Hirsi Ali is the best example. I think there's others like Enya,
Yes.
aka Nice Mangoes, which I think are better examples to hold up to. But I don't know. I feel like Ayaan Hirsi Ali is just not the honest person. Especially when you compare her to Linda Sarsour.
Linda Sarsour criticizes the Trump presidency while supporting Sharia law. Her views promoted by the official Women's March Twitter account, and she was one of the organizers. They say they will always have her back. But now some are questioning if she's the right messenger for women of this country. Sarsour has lashed out at other prominent women who are in favor of reforming some of the tenets of Islam. Sarsour's 2011 tweet, which has now resurfaced, went after these two very prominent women who have spoken out against Sharia law and in this vicious way. Read this for yourself at home. As she berates them and says that she wishes she could whip them and take away their body parts, it is vile, to say the least.
My reaction is that Ms. Sarsour is hostile to me, not because she knows me, but because she's a fake feminist. Ms. Sarsour is not interested in universal human rights. She's a defender of Sharia law. And the principle of Sharia law, there's no principle that demeans, degrades, and dehumanizes women more than the principle of Sharia law. And Linda Sarsour is a defender of that. She hates me, she hates Brigitte Gabriel because of that. And I want to ask Linda Sarsour and the women who put their trust in her, why did she not organize a march for Asia Bibi? That's the woman in Pakistan who's on death row. She is condemned because allegedly she did something that caused her to blaspheme. Or Miriam Ibrahim in Sudan, who was imprisoned. The 270 plus women that were kidnapped in Boko Haram, the Yazidi women who were subjected to slavery by ISIS. This is the times we live in. And these fake feminists who say they speak for Muslim women, they have never said anything about this. Linda Sarsour is not a defender of universal human rights. She's a defender of Sharia law. She hates me because I expose what Sharia law is. What Sharia law is what the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria is doing.
I mean, you have been a victim of genital mutilation, which is something that you speak out about quite a bit. It must be shocking to you to watch all of these women gather, in Washington under this woman's, leadership. What is your message to those women?
Well, I have friends there who marched, and when they spoke to me, I would say to them, listen, guys, we have threats, real threats against women, a real war on women. Our genitals are being cut. 140 million women have been subjected to genital mutilation. Child brides. We have women in China, for instance, the technology of looking at what is in your womb. I have a baby, and I had, 20 weeks, I could tell whether that was a boy or a girl. That technology is being used to remove girls. We are not marching against this kind of thing. We're not marching against mass rape in Europe. This is the kind of thing we need to be marching against, and we're not marching against that. If we're really interested in civil rights, human rights, female,
I hope
the rights of women,
we'll have more time.
We should not go with fake feminists.
Thank you so much.
You know your damn role and shut